Welcome to this guide on how to get started with Twisted. In this video, I'm going to tell you the basics of what you need to know, as well as helpful tips, advice, and clearing common misconceptions. We're just going to not waste any time here and cut right to the chase. And as always, there will be timestamps below for what I talk about in case you want to skip to a certain piece of information. This should be pretty obvious to like 99% of you watching, but if you don't know what Twisted is, it's a storm chasing game set in Midwest USA, in a fictional state called Kisota. Kisota is in Tornado Alley, and it gets a lot of tornadic activity. Vehicles are your best friend in this game, as they're driving for the large majority of the time. There are tons of vehicles in this game, some better than others. As of right now, we're only going to be focusing on the dealership vehicles. Your first car is a Chevy 4x4 SS. It's not a bad truck. It's the slowest in the game with a top speed of only 90 miles an hour. Like many other vehicles, you can optionally purchase a Mesonet or a lift kit for it. Mesonets measure the wind speeds around you, which is super useful. This gives you a lot of information about the winds and a good way to tell if you can get sucked up by the tornado or not. It is also a good form of gaining cash, which will be further explained in the money gain section of this video. The lift kit lifts your vehicle up a little bit so you can drive faster on dirt roads. Non-road surfaces, like dirt roads or grass, will slow your vehicle down. Dirt will slow your car down a little bit, but grass slows it significantly. Never, and I mean never, drive on grass. There's a lot of new players who like to cut off road and drive across the grass to head to the tornado next to them instead of waiting, which often ends up with them dying. Dirt roads are a much better alternative than driving on grass. Once you have worked up some cash, the best two vehicles to choose from next would be the Subaru Forester and the Honda Civic. They're both good, cheap, mid-tier dealership cars. Whichever one you pick is up to your preference. The Civic has a faster acceleration, but the Forester has a slightly higher top speed. Both of them do not have lift kits allowed, but they do have Mesonets available to purchase. Once you have picked one of those vehicles, you'll be doing a bit better in money gain. The next cars you want to work for are the high-tier dealership cars, those being the Ford F-150 or Chevy Silverado, and the Dodge Charger. However, you have a bigger choice than with the previous vehicles. If you'd rather go faster on dirt roads, buy the F-150 or Silverado and put a lift kit on it. They are the fastest dirt road vehicles in the game, both traveling 94 miles an hour on dirt roads with the lift kit. If you'd rather go faster on roads, go for the Dodge Charger. The Dodge Charger is the fastest vehicle in the game with a top speed of 125 miles an hour. All these vehicles are really nimble and great for dropping probes, getting out of there, picking the probes back up, and placing them again for major cash. We'll explain probes and their uses more in the money section later. The next step would be the chaser vehicles. These vehicles are built to withstand tornadic wind speeds. Regular dealership vehicles get swept away at 95 miles an hour, but these can last longer. These vehicles lower their ride height with hydraulics, as well as putting on plates, spikes, and anything else to make sure their vehicle does not get swept away. Different chaser vehicles have different wind thresholds. I'm only going to briefly explain what these are, as you're new to the game and you probably won't get these for some time. The Dominator 1 and the Tiv 1 are bottom tier ones, and have the lowest wind thresholds of the group. The Dominator 2 is a mid-tier chaser vehicle, with it being the center of the wind threshold and cost of all the other vehicles. The Dominator 3 and Tiv 2 are the top tier chaser vehicles, able to withstand up to and over 200 miles an hour winds. The Tiv 2 is the strongest, where it can survive up to 220 miles an hour when deployed. The DOW, or Doppler on wheels, is different than your traditional chaser vehicle. Instead of going inside the tornado, it's more of a supporting vehicle. It stands in the background providing helpful faster radar updates, as well as making the position of the tornado on radar accurate and measuring wind speeds from a distance. None of those vehicles are cheap either and will put a big hole in your pocket. Gaining money can be confusing to new players, but it's pretty easy once you know what to do. There are 4 ways to gain money, those being driving, Mesonet wind speeds, probes, and tending wounded/counting the dead. Driving is pretty simple, you earn a little bit of cash as you drive. It's a small amount, but will add up a lot eventually. Mesonets are a high-risk, high-reward type of way to gain money. With them, you have to reach 60 miles an hour or more to start earning cash. The higher the wind speeds read, the more cash you'll get. Be careful in regular vehicles though. Your wind threshold is 95 miles an hour, so make sure it doesn't get over that if you're close to the tornado. The third way to gain cash are probes. These can be tricky for some new players at first, but this is the most rewarding way to get money. To acquire probes, head to the top of your screen, click that garage icon at the far left of those icons, click Tracer Warehouse, and click the probes tab at the bottom left. Here you can see the different probes. You have 3 different ones to choose from, probe 1, probe 2, and probe 3. They are all the same except probe 1 has no camera to view through. You can hold up to 3 of any probes to your liking. After buying them, get ahead of the tornado. In order to make sure you're in its direct path, watch the tornado's movements. If it's moving left or right, it's moving away from you. If it looks like it's not moving, it's coming towards you. When you see it not moving, click to drop your probes and drive away. You gain cash the same way you do as Mesonets with probes. You can observe the wind speed as well as how much cash you got from it with the new section at the bottom of your screen. After it's safe to go back and pick up probes, click to pick them up. You will have to rebuy them if they made money. The last way to gain cash is the 10 wounded NPCs. In 1.17, NPCs were added and they spawn when a strong tornado hits a town. They spawn either wounded or dead. Hold E on the NPC to either heal them or take care of the dead. You will get some cash from doing so, and if you're on the EMS team, you'll get a larger amount. I also recommend the double cash game pass. It's super helpful and you gain money a lot faster. This part is going to be really short and simple. I'm not going to explain so much on what everything is, but rather what you basically need to know to tell if you're going to get good storms or not. First off, you really don't need to pay attention to the today's risk, whatever it says. Although it could give you somewhat of a rough idea, very often you get something either much better or much worse. The things you really want to pay most attention to on your thermos are cape and lapse rate. Those are your 2 big contributing factors. For everything, you want them all to be a higher number in the red colors for intense storms. When looking at the cape and lapse rate, you want those numbers in the same color range. If one of those numbers are lower than the other, that would choke the thermos, thus making the storm significantly weaker. Twisted's radar is one of the most important features of the game. It can tell you a lot about what's happening in the storms as well as show you locations and road routes. To start off, we're going to talk about the functionalities of the radar system. At the bottom left, there's a tab for multiple functions. On top of that, you'll see what time of day it is, and below it, the time left for the next radar update. Further down, you have a blip visibility button. Clicking that lets you toggle the road signs and skywarn reports, in case you want your radar to look less cluttered. The next function is something super useful, the measurement tool. This is used to measure distance between things, especially tornado width. It's really easy to use, as you just need to click 2 points and that line will tell you how wide it is. Speaking of tornado width, you can view past tornado tracks here. When clicking that tab, you'll be able to choose to see any tornadoes that have happened on that server. It's really cool to compare different tornadoes from different days. And finally, you have the highlight player tool. This is useful for trying to find where you or your friend is at. To use it, simply click highlight player and click the username of the person you want to find. Now that you know how to use the radar, we're ready to talk about the storms on the radar, as well as storm symbols. First off, let's talk about the cloud colors. The light blue is like a super light rain, and you only really see that on the edges of storms or when storms first form. Green and yellow are basically the same as that too, as they really only appear in the early phases of storm growth. Orange is heavy rain, and it's where you would usually find the tornado. Red is really heavy rain, and it can be hard to see through. Pink is your hail core, where all the damaging hail is found in these supercells. Sometimes, when a tornado goes through a town, red and pink might appear on the radar where the tornado is at. That is what's called a debris ball. The bigger it is shows how strong it is, and the deeper the color shows how high the debris have been lofted. Now we can get into the storm symbols. The 2 rotating green arrows are a mesocyclone indicator, which means there's rotation in the clouds and the tornado is about to drop. These are found easily in a hook shape on the storms, when the cloud sort of hooks around. I'll leave a few examples of them circled on screen for you so you can see what I mean. Mesocyclones, and by extension tornadoes, are always found in that orange zone, with red nearby it. You can easily determine where it's going to be before the mesocyclone forms, so you can get into the right spot before the meso arrives. Next, you have these colored triangles, the TVS, or Tornado Vortex Signature. I just want to make this clear here because there's a huge misconception with new players and the TVS. The TVS colors do not, and I repeat, do not correlate with the EF scale. Your pink TVS is not immediately an EF5. This misconception is most likely caused by the donator passes, but they're just names of colors. The TVS really shows a rough wind speed of the tornado. You have 5 different colors indicating several wind speeds. Those colors, from weakest to strongest, being green, yellow, orange, red, and pink. Green is 65 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour. Yellow is 80 to 100 miles an hour. Orange is 100 to 120 miles an hour. Red is 120 to 140 miles an hour. And pink is 141 or higher. At a minimum, pink has high-end EF2 wind speeds, but keep in mind the scale is based upon damage. The green, filled in triangles inside the hail cores tell you how big the hail is in inches. Moving on from that, there's different stages of warning boxes. Yellow warning boxes are hail warnings. Red warning boxes are basic tornado warnings, which appear when a mesocyclone is present, all the way up to orange TVS. Deep red boxes are PDS warnings, which stands for particularly dangerous situation. These appear on red and pink TVS tornadoes and only when the box is not in a direction of a town. Pink warning boxes are TOR-Es, or tornado emergencies. These are the worst of the worst and only appear when a red or pink TVS tornado is in a potential path of a town. The primary way of rating a tornado is through the damage it leaves. Different wind speeds leave different kinds of damage. We're only going to go through the super basic levels of damage just to keep this short and simple. First off, let's start with house damage because they tell you the most in terms of damage. There are several different kinds of houses, those being lower bound, expected, and upper bound. As you can see in the picture, these houses would be completely slabbed at those wind speeds. When a house is slabbed, it means nothing but the foundation is left. Now with this scale in mind, there's a few key damage indicators to houses that you can see. When just the roof shingles are blown off, that will tell you the tornado is EF0. When some bits of the roof are missing, that will be EF1. When the roof is completely gone and maybe some parts of the second floor, you'll have EF2. When the second story is completely gone, you'll get EF3 damage. When there's nothing left except for some interior walls, that would be a good indicator of EF4 damage. And finally, if there's nothing but a slab on upper bound homes, you got yourself an EF5. Remember though, make sure you know the bounds of the house are rating because they can vary a lot. Mobile homes have separate damage indicators compared to houses. These are significantly weaker buildings and get destroyed by much lower wind speeds compared to regular homes. You have both lower bound and expected mobile homes, where the lower bound ones are raised on blocks, while expected ones are on cobblestone foundations. When a lower bound mobile home is flattened, it tells you that the damage is EF1, while when an expected mobile home is gone, it tells you it's EF2 damage. You mostly find these in Angora and Nateville. Each town also has a maximum rating for when everything is destroyed. I'll put them on screen now to show you the max rating for each town. Other ways to tell damage are from trees. Trees can be fully debarked, which means the brown stuff of the part is fully ripped off. There are also two different tree types, softwood and hardwood. Softwood trees being debarked are an indicator for EF2, while hardwood is an indicator for EF3 damage. Like many other Roblox games, Twisted is optional paid game passes. Game passes generally offer new additions to the game, sort of like paid DLC. Twisted as of right now currently has 7 game passes, those being the EMS team, Storm Spotter, Double Cash, Infinite Fuel, Chainsaw, Custom Car Colors, and the Starter Pack. The EMS Game Passes brings a whole new way to play Twisted. Instead of chasing storms, you drive either an ambulance or fire truck and go to a tornado-damaged town. NPCs will spawn wounded and even sometimes dead after a strong tornado hits. You have to treat the wounded NPCs quickly or else they would die. You'll get a cash reward for healing wounded NPCs as well as bagging up dead people. The Storm Spotter Game Pass is more so a roleplay game pass as of now, where you can mark down notes about the hail, funnel clouds, and tornadoes on everyone's radar when you see them. Double Cash is a self-explanatory game pass, and a very useful one. The cash you earn is doubled, which means you gain money twice as fast as people without the game pass would. I highly recommend getting this one, it helps a lot. Infinite Fuel Game Pass is a game pass that makes your car never run out of fuel. In Twisted, vehicles have a fuel system, so you do have to fill them up every so often. This is a great game pass if you're lazy, or just constantly finding yourself running out of fuel and being left stranded asking people to pick you up. The Chainsaw Game Pass is a neat game pass. With it, you gain a chainsaw to chop up down trees, because very often trees will fall into the road. You get a cash reward from cutting down those down trees, and you can make bank if you're near a forest. With custom car colors, you can pick any color you want for a vehicle. Normally, you have a few set colors to pick from. We can get the exact shade you want with this pass. Also note that this does not apply to chaser vehicles, only dealership vehicles. And finally, we have the Starter Pack. The Starter Pack is good if you want to get a boost when starting out. This pass grants you $10,000 as well as a free Ford Expedition XLT. This car is a pretty good mid-tier dealership vehicle, so I highly recommend it. And with that, I think that wraps up everything you need to know when you're a new player to Twisted. I kept this all pretty base level, but I did go into detail for some parts because I just want to make sure you aren't completely a noob coming into this game. Also, as always, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm always glad to help. There's also a Discord for the game if you want to come down and talk with the community. There's a lot of cool people there. Hope to see y'all in game, and with that, see you next video.
Hey, I'm feeling Frosty in this bitch, got the chocolate tint. They wanna ask me how I spin, said it's all in the rims. I'm daydreaming about some shit that I'm fixing to get. Like all I want is some M's in the G-Wagon Benz. I'm feeling Frosty in this bitch, got the chocolate tint. They wanna ask me how I spin, said it's all in the rims. I'm daydreaming about some shit that I'm fixing to get. Like all I want is some M's in the G-Wagon Benz. I get the posse the assist, hit the